So welcome all again for session 2. So session 2 is future trends and challenges, and I welcome the speakers and panelists who are there with us today in person, as well as we have 4 speakers who have joined us online. So first of all, the chair for this session is Richard Sir from IEC. I welcome you, sir, again. Then the moderator for this session is Manjunath Sir, Regional Standard Manager from UL. And the speakers who would be joining us for this session is Mr. Wale William Naib. He's joined us online. So maybe I request the team there to please display. Yeah, so it's good. Then we have Mauro Dragni, sir. He's research scientist. Welcome you, sir. Then we have Kishore Narang sir with us. He's founder Narsix Technologies Private Limited. He's also with us online. Welcome you, sir. Then we have Masaki sir, who is the convener of Development Plan ISO IEC Systems. He's also joined us virtually. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Then we have Gopal Naria sir. He is head CS and automation from BSS Rajdhani Power Limited. He's there with us in person. So I welcome you all for this session, and we really look forward to a great engaging session as session 1. So all over to Manjuna sir for moderating the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Disha. Thank you, ISGF, for giving this opportunity. It's a great pleasure having this panel discussion with so many veterans sitting here and remotely joining. I think we had a fantastic session in the morning where we really talked about what are the various things that are being happening now. And now this as a follow-up, let's go ahead and see what are the future trends. Because I think no more any product or any system is a standalone. It is well interconnected. There is the carbon neutrality which is coming into picture, there is sustainability, there is data, there is AI, and there is cyber security, machine learning, all these things coming, and it is becoming an imperative for us. It's no more a luxury, or we could say it would not happen here in India. And across the globe, whatever is happening is definitely going to be an important thing for us to see, learn, and see what we can do further. With that, without further ado, let me request Richard, who is the chair for this session, to give his opening remarks. Richard, over to you.
Thank you. So, welcome back. For those who were attending the session this morning, and as you reminded us, the session this morning was really about, well, what was going on in standardization and sharing actually ideas, concern, requests. And the spirit of the session this morning was really, really very good because people have been talking their mind and really being blunt about things they might wish they don't have yet, things that works. And I think we have been staging some very important strategic thinking. This afternoon, we're going to look toward the future on the same topics, same kind of issues. I just wish that we will have such a good spirit speaking their mind. Of course, we have several speakers that are online, and it's more difficult to have this face-to-face feeling, you see. But I encourage them to really think that they are in the room. We see you. You are in the room, and please do your best to not just stick to some very formal presentation. And of course, this afternoon we have actually 2 hours for 5 presentations, which means that you have more time. There is a bit less time pressure, and this is really an excellent opportunity to speak up your mind. And of course, we have a very good, I am teaming up with an excellent moderator who will have the very difficult duty to try to remind some kind of timing so that we can keep up a bit of time at the end to entertain questions, much more than this morning. Hopefully, if each speaker doesn't use more than 20 minutes, then there should be 20 minutes for Q&A, and I wish this happens. Thank you. Without any further ado, I invite our moderator to open the opera.
Thank you, Richard. After seeing the moderation that you did in the morning, there is a lot of pressure on me, whereas there is not much pressure on the speakers, definitely. However, I would strongly request that let us keep our presentation or the point of view to 20 minutes. I know it's the future technology that we're talking about and definitely needs quite a lot of deliberation, discussion. Now, I think the first speaker for today is Mr. William, who is going to be, who is leading the artificial intelligence, the standards in the artificial intelligence in IEC. It's a great pleasure having you, William. Is that a myth that artificial intelligence? I believe that artificial intelligence is going to take away everyone's job is a myth. It's actually is going to be a facilitator. It's going to be making our life simpler, better, and probably looking at how this world can be made more safer, secure, and sustainable. So let me request William to present your views, and then we will have question and answers at the end. Over to you, William. One request what I would be doing is at the end of 18 minutes, I would probably interrupt if the discussion continues, just to make sure that you have 2 minutes left. Thank you.
Thank you, and hi everyone. It's unfortunately asking me to restart the app so I can share my slides. So I need about 15 seconds, and I apologize for that.
William, you're where? Are you in San Francisco currently? No, he cannot hear. Okay, because the app is restarting.
William, are you able to share your screen? Okay.
He's restarting the app. He's restarting the app.
Okay. Okay.
He has joined.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, let's see if it'll work now. I apologize. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Sure. Okay, perfect. And I heard the comment about the 18 minutes, so I will try to keep it there. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm talking on behalf of the Joint Committee between IEC and ISO on artificial intelligence, and I'll make all of the slides available. I'm just going to focus on a few areas just to set the context for the work that we're doing. So part of the approach that we're using in our committee is a little bit different than some of the traditional, I would say, technical IT committees. What we try to look for is the context of use of AI. And, that involves looking at various different application domains, regulatory requirements, a lot of these emerging ethical and societal requirements, and so on. And then by looking at the context of use, what we develop is over here in the middle, which is very horizontal standards. And the story doesn't end there. We work very closely with other application domain standards, open source projects, and of course, people can use our standards by themselves. So we are part of the ISO and IEC family. We are under the JTC1 program on information technology. Our focus is really standardization in the area of AI. We serve as the focal point from the IT point of view, which is what JTC1 does. But the other big part of our mission is to work with other IEC and ISO committees developing AI applications. So we've got about 35 active projects. We've been growing quite fast, rapidly, 15 added in the last year, 25 projects, and then a number that are under ballot. We're over 60 countries that participate. It's the ISO and IEC system are one country, one vote, and about over 33% are coming from developing countries with around 800 plus unique experts. We have extensive collaborations, and we run a workshop series that I will talk about at the end. This is what we currently look like. One thing I like to note here is we originally started with a number of direct report working groups, but we now almost have the same number of joint working groups with other committees that I will talk about shortly. One of our main areas is foundational standards. So this initially started with the two first projects assigned to the committee, including ISO IEC 22989, which is the concepts and terminology. And this is freely available under the JTC1 program, and you can download it from the link. We also published the framework for AI systems using machine learning. Our big current effort in this area is around enabling certification for AI systems, and that starts with our novel management system standard that I'll talk about separately at the end, as well as a number of projects around the certification mechanisms that regions can set up. We also have taken on amendments of the initial two publications to add generative AI. Data is a big area for us, so we actually inherited this from the original big data work program, but we quickly realized whether we're looking at big data, AI, or the analytics that run on top of them, there's a lot of similarities between all three in terms of looking at characteristics, properties, and quality. So we've published all of our foundational work. I would note that the last big data project that we published was led by India. We are now focused on the data ecosystem for AI. We have a 6-part multi-series on data quality for analytics and machine learning. And we have also started to look at synthetic data in the context of use of AI systems. Trustworthiness is probably the biggest area of work for us at the moment. One thing I'd like to note here, because this is a bit of an eye chart to read, what we are doing is building on the existing portfolio of ISO and IEC standards relating to trustworthiness, security, and privacy, and basically where we can, we extend for the specificities of AI. And where we have new requirements, we create new standards. One big piece of work that we did was to build what's called the AI risk management framework, and that's based on the ISO 31000 series. Other things you can see from the bolded terms is some of the things that you might expect that are specific to AI, whether it's explainability, controllability, or dealing with bias and taxonomy. A colleague of mine had developed this talking about, where ethics and societal issues exist in AI, noting that, things like job displacement and singularity are pretty far away. And really what we ought to be focused on is privacy, algorithmic biases, and consequences. I asked to borrow it because I think this maps quite well to the work that we do. So when we look at transformative technologies like AI, it's almost like a spectrum. On the one end, we've got, security, privacy, reliability, and on the other extreme is probably impact to society. And in the middle is this, again, context of use of the technology, and that brings rise to a lot of questions about what is ethical, what is responsible, and how can we make sure that these systems are adopted in a very broad fashion, but to have benefits, but also done responsibly. So the way we deal with this is we consider this question across the entire program of work. We do have dedicated projects. We published an overview on the topic, and we're now working on a specification for guidance on addressing these issues. And this is really meant to tie in some of the technical work to some of these sort of non-technical ethical issues that come up. But just as importantly, we integrate it throughout our deliverables. So whether you look at our management systems, our use cases, our application guidance, or our governance, this is all takes this question into account. I would also note that we are also looking at the positive impacts of AI through a project that we initiated last year to look at a beneficial AI framework. And it's important to keep in mind that we don't do this by ourselves, and we work with plenty of other organizations that touch on this topic. Risk is a big topic when you talk about AI, and again, similar to the previous topic, we deal with it throughout our deliverables as well as in a dedicated projects. One thing to note is that even though the word itself is quite simple, a four-letter word, there are different interpretations of it. And one interpretation is the organizational approach to risk, which is what we use in our management system standard and 31,000. But also there's a product safety approach to risk, and this is what we're working on through our existing publication 5469, as well as jointly with IEC TC65, SC65A. Use cases and applications are a big area for us. As I mentioned earlier, part of our mandate is to work with other application TCs and IEC and ISO. And, in here we have a number of things that we have done. We've published our use cases with over 130. We're in the process of revising that will take it closer to 200. That's very important for us for both to work with other committees as well as ensure that what we develop is horizontal. And last year, we published a couple of key standards. One is on an AI systems lifecycle process, and the other is a guidance for AI applications. 5339 was actually led by an editor from India, and it really is looking at, from the point of view of an application provider, how to look at deploying these and how our standards come together for that. In addition, as I mentioned, we're working on a beneficial AI framework here, as well as an environmental sustainability aspects. And we have a number of study items looking at human-machine teaming, evaluation metrics for AI, and guidance for AI applications. At the core of AI systems is computational methods and techniques. This is our fifth working group, and we've published an overview in this area that looks at existing as well as where things are headed. And we also have a novel TS that we did on the assessment of classification performance for machine learning models and algorithms. Our current work is focused in part on the front end with the knowledge engineering, but we're also looking at the overview of machine learning computing devices. Governance of AI was something that we wrapped up. This we did jointly with JTC1 SC40, and it really is intended to target the audience that's looking at decision making to deploy AI systems within an organization and leveraging the technical work that we had done in 42 to be able to ask and answer those questions. Testing of AI-based systems. Again, this is a growing area as we see more and more important being critical to ensuring that we have systems that are responsibly deployed. We have a couple of projects here. One is focused on testing, and that is, by the way, these are being done jointly with SC7 under JTC1, and testing of AI-based systems is an extension to their 29119 series, and verification and validation analysis of AI systems is another project we're working on. More in terms of work with the domains, we have a joint working group with ISO TC215 looking at AI-enabled health informatics. The first project here is a technical report looking at an overview of what is needed in this area. And the group is currently preparing a proposal to perhaps extend the terminology and concepts to a second part that would deal with AI for health. As I mentioned, functional safety, and this is very critical to a lot of verticals and environments, and this is something we're working on with IEC TC65, SC65A. We have a project approved in here, and I believe the group is looking to make a proposal to turn this into a series. This builds on and adds requirements to the technical report that we had done previously in SC42. Our newest joint working group looks at natural language processing. We've got a couple of projects in here. This is being done jointly with ISO TC37, and both projects are being executed on through the Vienna Agreement, as we're ISO administered. So with parallel development with Senelec, JTC21. And this looks at everything from speech to text to these ever-growing natural language processing systems for AI. So really exciting work that we kicked off January this year. I'll skip over this. Just want to mention briefly our management systems standard. And so this, if you're familiar with ISO 9001 or ISO IEC 27001 for cybersecurity, we took the sort of management system approach, which is very unique to ISO, and applied that for AI, noting that AI technologies have specific concerns beyond traditional IT systems around its learning and how it operates, as well as getting more confidence for the consumers of AI products as they hear and listen to AI being deployed more daily. What is key here is this opens up the door for conformance and auditability of the process, which in of itself will allow for trusted systems to be deployed, and is really the first of its kind standard to address this. And from what we have seen so far, many of the regions and countries plan to use that in their, whether formally or informally, in their regulation framework. It's also important to note that the way the management system standard is done pulls together a lot of our other standards when it's deployed, and this can also be extended for different verticals and domains. So really, kind of a key thing for us, this published at the end of last year, and through the workshops and some of the links that I've provided, there's plenty more detail if you're interested in this. Just to say something briefly, we did an analysis about 1.5 years ago for the UN SDGs. These are the Sustainability Development Goals, and we found that we directly support about 12 of the 17 of them, and this is by looking at the various projects that we have. But more interestingly, because we are a horizontal technology, we get used when verticals deploy or reference our standards, and from that point of view, we support virtually all of them. So just to conclude, it's a first of its kind committee. We're looking really at the full ecosystem and trying to ensure responsible adoption while realizing the benefits of AI. I'm just going to jump to one last slide, and if you can bear with me, just so you get an idea of what our workshops look like. And there's a ton of information in the slides. I'll make them available to the organizers to share with everyone. But I just want to briefly talk about our workshop series. So we host this twice a year. We call it the ISO IEC AI Workshop Series. It's freely available. We archive it. You could look at our previous presentations and videos. There's also articles that we create off of it working with the speakers. And it's free to register. We typically, our format looks something like this. This was the previous one. Our next one will be the beginning of June, but we typically have an AI applications roundtable where we deep dive. So the last time we looked at multimedia, we had a very cute name, Stream Screens and Synthetic Dreams, how AI is transforming media and photography. We have a track on beneficial AI, and then we have a track on novel standardization approaches. So these are upcoming projects that we'll publish that gives an idea, for people what we're up to. And then last but not least, we look at emerging technology trends and requirements. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, William. I should congratulate you and the team, the humongous task. It's a Himalayan task that you have taken. There are 5 joint working groups, technical committees, 5 joint working groups, and then also successfully bringing out the what you said is publishing the foundational work. That's something really incredible, I should say. It's a real humongous task. And uh, congratulations once again. And I think there are a few points which I also made note of is the ethical and societal concerns. How do we really address them? And the beneficial AI, because healthcare system, the AI that you have taken into consideration is a real task which is going to definitely affect the way we are looking at and definitely be of great help. So we'll reserve the questions for at the end of the session. Thank you and stay with us. So with that, let me now uh, call upon Mr. Mauro Dragoni, who is the research scientist from Fondazione Bruno Kessler, and he is the adjunct professor at University of Trento. Over to you, Mauro.
Hello, good morning. Good morning from Italy. Good afternoon to India.
Yep, Mauro.
Yeah, just I have to introduce myself. I am Mauro Dragoni, and I'm a research scientist at Fondazione Bruno Kessler, that is a research center located in Trento, Italy, and I'm a adjunct professor at the University of Trento. And today I represent ETSI in this very interesting event. I mean, I didn't prepare the slides since we agreed that we wanted to keep quite fluid the flow of the topic of the discussion for this morning. So we are here to represent the aspect related to the standardization aspects that we are working on in ETSI concerning the smart energy and the smart grid part. The work that we are doing in ETSI, especially in the last year, was related to the creation or to the activities around the SAREF ontology. That is a conceptual model that started to be built around 5 years ago. No, sorry, not 5 years ago. I started to work on it 5 years ago, but the artifact started to be developed around 10 years ago. And the idea behind SARF is to create an ontology supporting the standardization of modeling devices and the communication between them. Indeed, the technical committee that is in charge of managing ETSI is the Smart M2M technical committee. So the aim is to create a smart machine-to-machine communication in a standard way. And by starting from the idea of creating this artifact for supporting the standardization of the communication between devices, there were different extensions that have been developed through time. At now, we arrived at 12 extensions, actually, ranging from the environment, building smart cities, healthcare, automotive, etc. And in particular, the three extensions that could be considered in line with the topics that are discussed in this workshop are for sure the SAF extension for the energy domain, the SAF extension for the smart grid domain, and also the SAF extension for the smart cities domain. Because obviously these extensions can work in tandem for providing standard representations about how devices should communicate by themselves, how data should be provided, how data should be stored, and also should be processed and managed by the different stakeholders. Within SAREF, apart from the standardization perspective, we also interact a lot with other European initiatives and also with other European projects. One of it is the Interconnect European project. That is a project aiming to make a step forward within the smart energy and smart grid concepts, since their idea is to start from the standards that we developed within ETSI, okay, and to validate them in real world scenarios. In particular, they selected within the Interconnect project 5 locations around Europe in which smart buildings and smart cities are equipped with the standardization model that have been developed within ETSI. So the project is still running, and it will end, if I remember well, in a couple of years. And the results that they are obtaining are definitely promising. Obviously, the final aim to of how to say about the usage of these standards is to increase the efficiency of the emissions of cities. So we have obviously a green flavor final objective, and at the same time also to save money both for citizens and for municipalities. One other important aspect related to the adoption of these standards is also to enable and to support data interoperability. As you all know, it's already some years that there is this slogan saying data is the new oil in some way, because obviously the capability of collecting data and to process them in interoperability way is a must for advancing from the AI perspective, as also William said in its previous very interesting presentation, and also to try to achieve those sustainability development goals that have been that are also supported by the United Nations. Working in interoperable way, especially about the data, is one of the further objectives that are managed by ETSI. Indeed, 2 years ago, it was run a working team that focused in particular on the standardization of data usability in the context of AI systems. In this working group, I actively participated, and mainly what we did was to define a set of relevant scenarios in which AI solutions could be deployed, and also we focused on defining how the communication of this data across the different AI modules could be managed in an interoperable way, because the needs of these standards and the definition of these standards, especially from the AI perspective, is very sensitive in this age, because we observed, the speed with which new AI-based solutions are created, but the concept of how these different solutions can communicate each other is something that is often put aside from the manufacturers, no? Especially from the software and hardware perspective, because the interaction between software and hardware also in AI is very dense. So there is a lot of need of standardization and supporting data interoperability also in this field, and we are very focused and working on in this direction in different domains.
Thank you, Mauro. Maybe would you like to just touch upon, because I think this is what we had discussed, would you like to touch upon what were the challenges, because you were dealing with data, and while you were dealing with all this data and bringing all of them together, were there challenges? How did you mitigate them? Because this could form a basis for even the standards which are being developed now. How standards can be developed at a much faster pace, and also how these technologies can be leveraged in development of the standards?
One of the most relevant challenges is that there are already standards that exist, and obviously we cannot ignore them. Obviously, the point is that once you start to develop a new standard for covering a specific area, for example, I want to report a concrete case. We are working on a standard for digital twins, for modeling how digital twins should communicate in the context of smart cities. No? There are no standards that are specific for digital twins concerning the domain in which we are working on. But there are standards that have been already defined for some specific aspects that are exploited by digital twins. There are standards for defining for example, the definition of the virtual environment. There are standards for defining data models. There are standards defining some hardware aspects. No, but these standards are obviously disjoint. And in the context of digital twins, instead, what we should do is to start, in a sense, to make them talk each other. That is definitely not easy, in the sense that these standards have been developed with different flavors, different ideas, different objectives, but at the same time, it is not useful to design a new standard from scratch, also covering areas that have been already analyzed by other people in the last 20 years. No, this is definitely a very big challenge to address. We are actually working on that because the working group on standardization of digital twins is something that is still ongoing and that will end at the end of this year. And we are specifically working on some aspects that can integrate existing standards. Just to make an example, one of the aspects on which we are working on is the standards for time series. No? The management of time series data is something that has not been covered by any standard, but that can be used to integrate existing standards in order to make them usable within the digital twin context. No? And it seems that at the end of the day, then you provide new standards that are just, I don't know, 1/10 of the work that someone else already did for others. But actually, they are the results of a meticulous study of existing standards, and then we put that new feature that allows to make a step forward in some specific domain.
Get you. Thank you, Mauro. Thank you. Is there anything further you would like to elaborate upon the work that you have been doing?
About which specific topic?
I mean, the work that you're doing on the now, you spoke about the data, how you have been able to work towards development of the standards. Is there anything additional that you would like to talk about?
About the other aspect related to data usability, the
Yep.
aspect that we made, yes. In concerning the data usability work that we did, since one of the aim of ETSI is also to follow all the aspects related to AI, and especially about how AI can be used as an active part of the communication between devices, because okay, we lived in a world in which we had only devices that communicated data across each other. But now devices communicate also with AI systems that work in an independent way. Obviously, this means that if we put AI solutions within existing ecosystems of devices, we need to provide a sort of standardization of how data produced and consumed by the devices should be standardized in order to be processable also from AI systems. No? So in this case, the work that we did in that working group was to analyze more than 30 different scenarios, ranging from smart agriculture, smart lift, automotive domain, water management system, trying to cover all the areas that are targeted by IEC, basically, and then to analyze them at a very fine-grained level to discover which were the discrepancy about the data modeling aspects in order to try to achieve that objective of 100% data interoperability in order that if a manufacturer or a software producer wanted to enter in an ecosystem equipped with the with the ETSI standards, where it would be able to design solutions that, or only by starting from all the metadata aspects that are developed and the standards that are developed in the technical specifications that we published, is able to create something that can be ready to go and easy to implement into existing ecosystems. So, and obviously, this would be it is a very ambitious goal, but it would be definitely a great result from the technological perspective.
Thank you, Mauro. I think we'll have the question and answer for you at the end of the session. With that, may I now
Okay, thank you.
move on to Kishore ji, a good friend of mine, and thank you for joining online, Kishore ji. I think since we talked about data, we talked about artificial intelligence, it's all about the data and artificial intelligence that we spoke. I'm sure you would have a much more broader view to really talk about. Without further ado, let me ask you to give your views on what are the future technologies, trends, and how we are going to address it through the standards. Kishore ji, over to you.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Slide. Okay. So, good evening from Sydney. I'm sorry I'm not able to be attending this ISGW, which is my favorite annual pilgrimage in person, where I meet every year all the friends. I'm missing the Richard Schomburg in specific. Sorry to not meet you, Richard, but I couldn't miss sharing my thoughts on such an important event. So what I'm going to talk about is from utilities point of view, my focus is how to,
You maybe have to be a little louder. Can you just come closer to the microphone?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll also ask here to modulate the speaker.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is from the utilities perspective, the different challenges and opportunities are there, and how do we leverage and how do the utilities develop their future transformation strategies for sustainable as well as leveraging all the digital disruptive technologies. So without any further, let's look at where we are today. Is this the evolution? Because we need to first of all understand the current imperatives that we are living through. Is this the evolution we ever expected? Absolutely no. But that's the reality. It's a small world. It's also an increasingly hot, crowded, and contentious one. The combined effect of climate change and society's impact on Earth is intensifying struggles over natural resources while also threatening our infrastructure, food system, and quality of life. Nature, unfortunately, no longer runs the Earth. We do. And climate is not politically strong enough to fight the carbon by themselves. So it needs mankind to help it to work on these things. And if you want to have just at a glance the current landscape and imperatives, everybody is talking for the last couple of years very seriously about climate change, net zero goals, going carbon neutral imperatives and initiatives. Energy security. I think even regions like Europe, which had become, energy positive, now they faced during Ukraine war and all that because geopolitical issues, some, energy crisis, etc. So we need energy security and resilience within each region and within each country. Then we are talking about clean and green energy. In spite of all the development and all the renewable, coal, gas, and oil still meet 3/4 of global heat demand, making it heavily fossil fuel dependent. Then energy efficiency. It is rightly considered as the fifth fuel and a source of clean energy rather than a strategy. Electricity excess. In 2020, we had about 90.5%, but even in 2030, we still estimate about 660 million people would still lack access to electricity. Then we have the global digital population, which is ever increasing. So today we have more than 5 billion internet users and more than 4.65 billion social media users, and ever increasing. And that has actually also brought into the digital transformation into all aspects of our life, society, business, and industry. And it is not only basically the way we talk about digital transformation, IT, OT. It's all about IT, OT, network technologies, IoT, and AI. So these are then AI. I think William, while very rightly gave you the kind of standardization initiative going, but it's a double-edged sword. The pervasiveness of AI comes with plenty of adverse implications, including, but not limited to, exponentially multiplying carbon footprint and other ethical concerns. Then, growing carbon footprint of digital infrastructure. We are going digital in every aspect, but then we also need to look at the growing carbon footprint of digital infrastructure for that. Then, looking at citizens' point of view or the population point of view, we all need a meaningful, safe digital life, a fair, more livable digital future for our evolving, technology-driven world. Then Industry 4.0 to Industry 5.0, shifting perspective, which talks about man-machine collaboration and sustainability on the forefront. Then sustainability and resilience, whether we talk about electrified society, connected society, or digital society, it has to be sustainable and resilient, to say the least. And then last but not the least, I'll talk about, everybody talking about greenwashing. We hear a lot of big claims on net zero. We'll go net zero in 2030, 40, 50. I think, but it's all full of greenwashing. We need to control, monitor, audit it very earnestly. Now, looking into a few aspects closer to our topic of interest, when we talk about energy system, even their paradigms is shifting from one centralized, one-way passive energy system. It is getting into becoming a distributed, multi-way, active, and predictive energy system. And it needs a cross-sector system value for future energy system based on harmonized data landscape, because all these different ecosystems need to seamlessly share data information with each other. Then we are talking about sustainability beyond, and SDGs, which everybody talks about, are not the actually goal. They are just a bridge towards designing regenerative cultures for and regenerative futures for us. And talking about digital transformation, everybody talks about multiple, technologies. But actually, this is not only about information operation. We are talking about network technologies, IoT technologies, and all the more AI, which has become again very, very pervasive in all this. So, what is the digital transformation? Is it a technology? Actually, no. It is a complex paradigm with domain-specific implication, because we are living in a very ephemeral world and things are changing drastically, and with context, the digital transformation strategy changes. With domain, digital transformation strategy changes. And coming to standardization. When we talk about standardization, whether it is with data interoperability, semantic or syntactic, or information sharing, or physical integration of systems, seamless vendor agnostic technologies, the beauty of standards is that there are so many to choose from. In an ideal world, we would have exactly one standard for each task or interface. However, in reality, there are often overlapping standards or rivaling standards driven by different vendor camps, or even at times SDOs. So what can a designer or developer do? Support all standards, which is too expensive. Wait for one standard to replace all others? May not happen. Implement a software abstraction layer that permits certain interfaces, standards to be replaced? Good if possible. Choose one standard and accept incompatibility with all others? Bad, but sometimes that ends up being the only choice. So what is the way forward? As a result, what is happening? Because of the plethora of individual standards, we are having a cacophony of standards rather than a symphony. And what we realize in IEC particularly, that somebody has to orchestrate the symphony of standards. And because it is unlikely to be which standard, since most architectures do not pick one standard, but have a layered approach capable of using multiple standards in the portfolio. So the question we started asking about more than a decade back is, will system standards be able to do it? And I think we felt so. And so in IEC, we adopted the system approach. And we have multiple system committees. And one of the pioneer system committees, Smart Energy. Richard has been the founding chair of this system committee. I think he can talk more than me. But what we learned here, that when we deal with multiplicity of technologies and their convergence in many new and emerging markets, however, particularly those involving large-scale infrastructure like our smart grid, smart energy, utilities, and all that, we need a top-down approach in standardization, starting at system or system architecture, rather than at a product level. Therefore, the systemic approach in standardization work can define and strengthen the system approach throughout the technical community to ensure that highly complex market sectors can be properly addressed and supported. It promotes an increased cooperation with many other standards developing organizations and relevant non-standard bodies needed on an international level. Further, standardization needs to be inclusive, top-down and bottoms-up. A new hybrid model with a comprehensive and granular approach is needed. And looking at this SDM framework, so the approach that I'm going to talk about is, everybody's talking about digital transformation of utilities. But how do we go about digital transformation and still keep sustainability in mind? And everybody knows today, as we already depicted, the energy system is becoming very, very complex and multi-directional and multi-stakeholder and distributed. We have, along with the core grid operation of distribution, transmission, and generation, we have renewable integration. We have electric vehicle charging infrastructure integration. We have grid scale storage integration. Then a lot of other demand and response and all other different kind of requirements that are being thrust upon the utilities to meet those expectations of the stakeholder. And then decarbonization. One of the most focus area is decarbonization. How do you decarbonize without having a complete grip on the data information of the energy generation, production, transmission, and even wastage of the losses in the thing. So in next few slides, I'm going to propose an approach which I've been working on to develop an architecture for your digital utilities for future to make them comprehensively sustainable and digital utilities. So what we are proposing is in IEC System Committee Smart Energy under Richard's chairmanship, the Smart Grid Architecture Model Framework was developed, and using this and then taking also the enterprise architectural approach. And enterprise architecture is all about a combination of the the system parts, different system parts, then business processes and business strategy, and plus technology. You come up with a holistic integrated process and system across different enterprises, whether they are technology systems, whether they are information system, business processes, or marketing, or other aspects. So we take these two different things and merge them, and also then leverage the system engineering approach of architecture. What it talks about is, it talks about different levels of architecting, right from reference model to developing reference architecture, to reference solution architectures, to doing reference implementation and final implementation. This is a structured approach on basis of which basically SDM, and in IEC we are developing multiple domain-specific, particularly like smart city and sustainable electrified transportation, reference architectures on the similar system approach and architectural approach, which is based on our triple standard 42010, 42020, 42030 series of standards. Now, the combination of all these approaches actually can help us come up with a holistic, comprehensive strategy framework for unified digital infrastructure. And so if SDM, this IEC, SDM and EA framework can be fed into structured architectural approval process to extract different levels of abstraction, which I mentioned just now here, to implement, to help build diverse implementable solution architectures, coherently providing comprehensive ubiquity. And then, based on this comprehensive strategy framework with the well-identified pillars, in this case, what we have identified are these four aspects: unified digital strategy, governance and operation, trustworthiness, and sustainability as the main four pillars. But how do we do that? The problem that is coming up that everybody is facing, whether it is smart grid or smart manufacturing or smart cities, current applications live in silos. So, but if you really look at it, the information management conceptual architecture gives us that, however, whatever kind of infrastructure you design for any use case, for any domain, it is all about getting actionable events, actionable insights, and actionable information. So all the different infrastructures, ICT deployment for different individual solutions in the field are basically achieving the same thing. So what we decided that why can't we combine this, siloed infrastructure into a common unified infrastructure and identifying the common layers where everything remains the same. So this is a new, architecture model we developed in BIS in IEEE for the digital infrastructure. It is domain agnostic and it is use case agnostic. You can use this architecture for one particular domain like utilities or within utilities, or you can even use the same architecture model for smart cities where multiple utilities work together. The basic focus is that this long stem of this classic sausage champagne glass architecture model is basically what brings comprehensive and holistic interoperability and standardization. We have these four major macro layers: unified last mile communication, standardized gateways, common service layer, and utility middleware, which can be standardized. And the bottom layer, you can see so many diverse and heterogeneous devices, sensors, controllers can keep on adding, and on the top you can keep on adding new utility application and consumer services. And distribution utilities actually, I'll not, this slide deck I'll be sharing, you can go through this, and the really interesting part is that this architecture model, beyond reducing significantly the capital expenditure, the operational expenditure and carbon footprint of the digital infrastructure, enables a unified and protected infrastructure that can be easily designed to be comprehensively resilient and cyber secure. In fact, distribution or even the transmission utilities need to relook at their operations in totality to operate efficiently in complex integrated energy systems. A unified digital utility reference architecture can help better manage their sustainability goals, their annual budgets, seamlessly integrate new technologies for operation, and orchestrate consumer revolution with more clean generation. So these are some of the aspects that utilities can adopt it. And if you want to depict it, that model into a simple ICT view, this is how the layers could be designed and which could be common. And at all these blue dotted outline talks about the digital utility ICT layer, which can be common across different solutions, across different domains and of the utilities operation. So this is one of the very interesting architectural approach we are working on. And we are coming up with a holistic standard in BIS in the next 1 year time, and we will see how we can take it further to the global SDUs also. But when we talk about all this digital infrastructure, there are a few other aspects I would like to touch upon before I close. Is digital trust. It is one of the very, very complex and very important topic. Okay. Then trustworthiness. I think Weil also mentioned about trustworthiness. And so, in fact, I'm in Sydney for attending this ISO IEC JTC1 Work Group 13 on trustworthiness meetings. And this is a complex, this is a domain which has become actually already subsumed the cybersecurity, privacy, and so many such kind of aspects. So trustworthiness is becoming much more important than simply cybersecurity and cyber resilience. So if you look at the characteristics of trustworthiness, they include reliability, availability, resilience, security, privacy, safety, accountability, transparency, integrity, authenticity, quality, usability, and accuracy. So trustworthiness is an overarching paradigm with a multitude of nuances and distinct aspects such that it has different connotations for different set of stakeholders, use case and application. What aspects or nuance of trustworthiness may be highly critical in one use case, may be absolutely trivial for some other use case depending on its context and or domain. So when we talk about trustworthiness, we need to look at it from which stakeholders' perspective we are looking at. From a utility point of view, operation point of view, there are different nuances. From consumer point of view, there are different aspects. But as a utility operation, and to keep it cyber secure and all that, we need to look at all these different aspects. And then, how do we make our digital infrastructure cyber resilience? Everybody talks about. I think we are now getting into a stage where we are talking about cyber immunity. So the pandemic-induced digital transformation has increased exposure to cyber threats as we cross the digital fault line due to remote working and escalated online presence. To counter this, an intuitive and adaptive cyber posture defined by zero latency networks and quantum leaps will be needed across industries. These developments, while great for humanity, will challenge privilege, privacy, and defend every citizen. Cyber immunity at every layer will create networks and infrastructure that are inherently secure and self-learning. AI-induced digital intuition must be one of the pillars of any cybersecurity strategy to allow intelligent adaptation. The ability of AI systems to out-innovate malicious attacks by mimicking various aspects of human immunity will be the line of defense to attain cyber resilience based on both supervised and unsupervised machine learning. These are some of the things that we are working on for digital infrastructure currently. Then, since we talked about AI, I can't help but talk about one of my favorite topics. What do you see here?
Kishore
It's a plastic.
sir, may I request
Yeah,
you to close it quickly?
yeah, I'm
You have
just
just 30
concluding.
seconds more, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think when we talk about AI, I think one of the issues that we are talking about is the ethical imperatives for disruptive technologies like AI, which is about sustainability and carbon footprint. We are looking at how AI's environmental impact will impact this planet's climate and our survival of the mankind on this planet. Beyond this, I think this you can go through. There's a body which works on these ethical aspects of AI. I would sincerely request you to look into these. We have published this think piece on Is AI the New Plastic? Look into it. I'm not saying AI is not useful, but I think, as I mentioned, it's a double-edged sword. We need to be more cautious about it. So what is this? How do we address all these disruptive technologies, standards, and all these things together to make our utilities transform in a sustainable manner to meet the new challenges and new requirements of the stakeholders? We need all these stakeholders to sit across the table and work together on it. And we need a comprehensively approach for net zero, decarbonization, sustainability, security and resilience, leveraging disruptive technology and ethically aligned designs, and adopt system approach when dealing with standardization in complex paradigms. So my personal key takeaway for standardization journey is, since standardization is a collective churning, deliberation and collaboration process, we need to moderate as well as expand our individual thoughts on any subject to make it acceptable globally. We humans need to radically change our relationship, not just with planet, but with the objects with which we fill our lives. We need to change how we think about innovation and technology. Rather than allowing technological advancement to steer our narratives, innovation and technology should help us build bridges between the worlds we inhabit now and the ones we imagine for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore sir. Yeah, it's always very difficult to stop you because you are so passionate about the subject, and you really bring the perspective which probably we may not think while we are talking about the new technologies. Thank you for bringing it up and also giving a solution approach for the technologies that are being there or which is getting deployed. What are the various system approach that we really need to look at? Thank you very much for that. Now let me call upon, be there sir, because we will have the question and answer session at the end of the session. So let me invite Masaki Umejima-san. Masaki-san is the convener of Development Plan ISO IEC System Committee Smart Energy. Masaki-san, over to you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Yep, thank you. So I think thank you for inviting me to this, I think the great, the session. I'm very honored with. So here we go. Okay, before starting today's my topic, I want to introduce what IEC System Committee Smart Energy is. So I think that I'm in charge of development plan. I think at SYC Smart Committee, I think SYC, I think the smart energy. What is the purpose of, I think, SYC Smart Energy? The purpose is to bring system approach to smart energy system, including smart grid and, I think, distributed energy system. So SYC Smart Energy has three pillars. First pillar is roadmap. So everyone knows SGAM, Smart Grid Architecture Model. That is first pillar of SYC Smart Energy. Second pillar is development plan, which is my responsibility. Third pillar is ontology at working group 6. That ontology will be appeared in half a year, I think. So creating good triangle among development plan, roadmap, ontology. That is the strategy of SYC Smart Energy to enable the system approach on new electricity system. Actually now, roadmap spotlight 7 areas. First area, energy management of customer premises. Second area, real-time data access to a metering and grid system. Third area is DER energy management. Number 4 area, IoT. 5 area, digital twins. 6, electric vehicle and distributed energy storage system. And 7 is cyber security. So important in SYC Smart Energy is to focus on system and communication model, not on device and hardware. So in terms of real-time data access to metering system, we don't focus on meter itself. We will focus on how to share real-time data of metering system with a lot of different stakeholders. That is our approach. So I think that everyone knows smart grid architecture model. That is reference architecture for all activity in SYC Smart Energy. Next, in I think reliable methodology, that is use case approach. So everyone knows IEC 62519 series that is defining the use case methodology. So I think by using this template, SYC Smart Energy is trying to describe new type of business use case on smart grid architecture model. That is, I think, the current ongoing activity. So I want to narrow the scope. So this is, I think, very interesting new business use case, ERAB, Energy Resource Aggregation Business Model. This is very interesting. Concept is very simple. System configure a lot of different energy resources. Air conditioner, fuel cell, and electric vehicle battery charger, and so on. Of course, real-time data from power meter is necessary. So what can do? ERAB can restrain or elevate the demand according to the request by retailer and grid distributor, plus provide the electricity trade in supply and demand adjustment market. So I want to say ELAB will create new service for DSO, TSO, but not only them, ELAB will create new added value for retailer and customers. But another important is how to get real-time data access from metering system. Because to measure the performance of ELAB, trustworthiness is very important. That is the reason why this ELAB case is spotlighting real-time data access, as I said, as a development plan. So this is an interesting update from Japan. Japan announced the new power meter specification. So from 2025, every household will have new power meter allowing real-time data access from users' mobile phone application. That means without getting assistance from utility companies, user directly can connect to metering device to receive real-time electricity consumption data. So of course, that is one way. The important in SYC Smart Energy is to enable real-time data access. This Japan case, smartphone directly has access to meter itself and then receive real-time data from meter. But that is Japanese case. Not only Japan case, of course, we can generate and simulate a lot of different approach. Maybe I think the metering company will give real-time metering data to users' mobile phone and mobile application directly. That is another way. But important is how to realize and how to describe real-time data access from metering system to user's device. So another interesting update from Japan, and then in Japan, now electric vehicle battery charger and the solar panel controller, lighting and air conditioner and the fuel cell speak same language, complying with IEC standard. So we can see this kind of phenomenon in many countries, not only in Japan, in India, in Europe, in US, and Australia, and many Asian countries. So this is, I think, the number of Japan. In Japan, now, I think that over 100, I think, and 30 million devices speak same language, complying with IEC standards. So this situation will generate a lot of new security concerns. As we talked today, trustworthiness, and then reliability, and the privacy, etc. So SYC Smart Energy suggested 6 critical concepts to think about, I think, the cyber physical system security. But this is, I think, this concept tries to cover the overview of necessary security. When we think about real security requirement, we must make narrow the scope on common understanding, existing standards, and many discussions. So now, this is a sample of ELAB. We try to map ELAB system on existing approach, including existing standards. So I think that we can say energy resource aggregation business system is cyber physical system. So how to secure the virtual layer, that is important. On the other hand, how to create good convergence on trust architecture, that is another important at physical layer. Of course, making good trustful harmonization between cyber layer and physical layer is another important point. So I think that when we think about necessary security requirement of new, I think, smart grid, we must think about new approach as cyber physical system. So, of course, I think that the top level discussion, I think higher level discussion is very important. But on the other hand, based on the discussion with use case, that will help how to create necessary requirement on to contribute real implementation. So that this is, I think, takeaway, I think, from my content. So real-time data access to a metering system is necessary to review the performance of aggregating distributed energy resources and maintain grid network quality on SGAN model. Another point, addressing the interoperability in between DERs and mandating security for cyber and physical system is very, very important. Finally, SYC Smart Energy is driving the relative standardization creation as per the system approach. Of course, all activities are based on the collaboration with the other TCs and national committees in IC. That is, I think, all from me, and thank you for giving, I think, me the precious opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Majima-san. I think ERAB, which you brought out, is going to transform. They will look at the utilities and also the power generation. Thank you very much. Please stay with us for the question and answer session. The last speaker for the session today, Mr. Gopal Naria, who is the head of CES and automation at BSES Rajdhani Power Limited. Thank you for being with us, sir. Over to you.
Good afternoon. I'm Gopal Naria from BSES Rajdhani Power Limited. So interestingly, today when I came to here, we have been told that there is nothing specific structure that I have to share today in this session. So very broadly, the lot of routine and conventional problem I was just recording to share with people. Fortunately, in this session, most of them has been discussed. And very interestingly, almost all the different organizations are working at very grassroots level, which we face the problem in day-to-day adoption of digital solution. So some of them, like one said recently in the RAS presentation, is SYC SE, Smart Industry. It's very important. Why? Because our experience so far in utility digitization, we are operating around 110 grid, all are unmanned grid. We have a central SCADA control system. Nobody are placed in the grid. That's because of our own confidence on the technology we have adopted. But the biggest challenge, what we see is that so many different solutions is restricting the actual use case of the digitization. What is the biggest advantage? What is the biggest limitation for any utility is because it is usually dependent on human capital. Lot of human intervention is required for day-to-day functioning, operation efficiency, and all other performance parameter management. So it's required huge manpower, the quality of manpower itself is a biggest challenge. Now we don't see any IITian coming in the core sector. If you see the data of any of IIT, very few engineers prefer to work in core sector because of many different reasons. Unless we bring them, we are not going to change because they are the one who can play a very good role after certain experience becoming a part of management. Today, most of the people in utility, is one very interesting problem I always say is, most people involved in decision making are either CA or bureaucrats. And the regulator are legal experts. So now you can understand our problem. One example I can say is for ADMS is one very interesting digital solution. As a utility, we expect that we should have it. Because prosumer, DER, renewable energy availability, peak versus load factor, there are a lot of challenges. Viability itself is a big challenge. Being a private utility, and particularly a metro like Delhi, which is the Indian capital, the expectation from consumer and different sector is altogether is a different level. They want us to change at very fast level. There are so many policy, and every day we used to have a lot of calls. Okay, ministry is calling. There are new discussion on be ready, or something like that. Every day new planning is there. So many new adoption. They want us to change, transform, provide them input, respond to the query. Their expectation we have to fulfill very quickly. But unfortunately, our digitization DPR we submitted in 2017 to Delhi Regulatory Commission. So far, we haven't heard from them. So that sort of challenge is because they are from different domain. Their priority and their perception is different. What we see, this is a long-term solution because our problem is not going to be solved traditional way. I mean, I can't expect that a regulator will raise my tariff and I will have a lot of fund. So I will spend, I will transform, I will give very different level of service to my consumer. No. Our challenge is almost matching with telecom sector. They have found that solution. Nowadays, they are not dependent on tariff from calls. There are a lot of different models. So we are also expecting similar solution from digitization. Maybe customer service model can be off. But to realize that, we need to adopt this type of technology at very fast pace. The method, the way we have to adopt is very important because very relevant topic was covered in previous slide. Architecture of the smart grid. Because unless we have a hyper automation, none of this use case is going to bear any fruit. Why I am telling hyper automation? Because in electrical network, electrical energy supply chain is an interconnected network. So if I know from where I am providing power supply to my consumer, outage of any element will naturally give me an intelligence how many consumer will be affected. So my response can be faster and better, but that's not the reality because of certain constraint, because of legacies, the way network has been, the lack of planning, maybe from city or town planning, different authorities. So with this all, we wish that hyper automation sort of thing will be feasible only and only if we have a very solid, a well thought, well designed architecture, and subsequently implementation is more important than, because craftsmanship is very interesting area. Unless we have a very good craftsmanship, the very good design will not serve the result. So far we have a SCADA. So SCADA is generally data acquisition system. very typical problem I just wish to share briefly is that in Delhi, we have a very steep performance target from DSM regulation. Generally, during a peak days, we used to have around 3,500 megawatt peak demand in our area. As per demand DSM regulation, we are supposed to manage within plus minus 8 megawatt. So I can't go beyond plus 8 megawatt from my schedule or forecasted load, neither in the mine. Beyond that, there is a heavy penalty. Now, what is the biggest challenge for us? At any time, I don't know how much I am consuming. There is no means to know what is the total aggregated load of my different consumer in my distribution licensee area. I have a SCADA, I have energy auditing meters, almost all feeders. Unfortunately, these meters are not time synchronized. And most of them are not capturing certain attributes of the parameter we required for aggregated load value deriving in a real-time basis. So generally there used to be error of around 20 to 25% with a lot of efforts. So many different upgradation in component, RTU, router, telecom network, providing bigger and better bandwidth, more SLA for lower downtime of communication network. We came at around 0.5% accuracy. That's good enough because we need a very stable number. Maybe it is plus minus 20% inaccurate, but either it has to be plus or 20, then it's good enough. I can make out some way, I can forecast and I can manage my penalty. So that's one very important input just I wish to share with the expert. Time synchronized data is very important for realizing almost all the use case on which we are just betting, we are just building hopes from all the stakeholders for adoption of digital solution. Second, too much small silos. I can't say silos, small solution, independent solution, like IoT is one. So typically, any distribution company is governed through the regulation and the laws. We can't adopt any solution at a large scale immediately for all our needs. So we have to do small pilot. Now this pilot offers a different type of solution every time. Next time I can't go to the same person because I have a procurement guidelines. So that part somehow we have to look into it. Another important area is wherever there is a human intervention, the data quality will be impacting. So from SCADA to IOMS, if I have to transfer or I have to enter the outage manually, so naturally that data will not be reliable. Either I can't take long-term action plan out of this data. We have IOMS. Even we are the one utility, we have at last 20 years digitally downloaded 100% smart meter data. Now that's a digital, very reliable, very important records. Globally, I don't think any utility will have that data, but we don't know how to use that because it doesn't have certain intuitive. One is times. Unless I have a timestamp, it will give me a 90 slot per day data. But if there is an error in some of this meter, this data is of no use except for billing. So billing, anyway, I am doing today also. Whereas remaining so many different use cases we are discussing since last many years in the forum, similar forum, will be materialized provided we take care of certain essential need or the learning from the existing setup. So one is this hyper automation, I mean a seamless transfer communication of data among the different systems. Maybe a smart metering system, ADMS, maybe SCADA or IoT, like all these need to have a seamless automated data transfer. Unless we have that fast and automated data transfer, the outcome may not be useful for many different use cases. Like for network management, in a distribution automation, we have deployed around 2,000 different RMU level FRTU and FPI integration, substation automation module. Now these FPI modules, some of them was based on IoT technology. Now it was giving us a input in forms of dots or SMS or like that. Now interpretation of this information or a large number of information is just beyond the human capacity. We can't analyze 100 SMS at any time. Nobody can. We can't expect from any person. So very important learning we came across was that we need something graphical, very some solution with very strong GUI. Where graphically, if I open the Delhi map of my distribution area and I see the red dot, immediately I can make out, okay, GK1 has a certain outage. So if I can zoom and pinpoint the exact point. But if I have 100 different SMS and I will interpret SMS, I will call someone, by that time someone will reach to the location and will rectify the problem. So we need a very strong GUI, we need a hyper level automation, we need to capture very important attributes, particularly electrical data is not only simply digital data. Because some data lake, somebody was used to talk to us about data lake. But what limitation it offering was that once I export data to a data lake, the data is of no use to my any OT solution because it has its own method of interpreting the electrical data. So it's not simply a digital data, it has different type of attributes. So they are the few learning that I wish to share. And one very important area from this, the utility like us, where we have certain opportunity, provided the adoption has certain consideration. One very important was covered in the morning area was a utility angle, inclusion of utility angle in any technology adoption. So fortunately, it was already IEC President has already covered that part to inclusion of it. Why it is important? Because most of the technological solution provider may be smart. There are so many different companies today available in Delhi, and fortunately, all our younger population wants everything is smart in their home. May it be light, may be curtain, motor, washing machine, AC, everything. So that's a big advantage for us, provided we have a commonly a good solution available where it has a perspective for user, where he can see everything, we can control, use all information through their mobile app. At the same time, it can offer valuable insight and control to the utility so that I can manage my peak. Now today, if you see, when we privatized almost 20 years before in 2002, our load factor and peak demand was very close. Around 70% was a load factor. Today, our load factor is hardly around 0.47, whereas peak is almost 2.53 times higher than the day we privatized. So its gap is increasing day by day. Now see, as a utility, everything is pass on cost. So I have to file simply ARR, I need not to bother, not like that. But that cost, there will be a certain limit unless I optimize this. This is beyond going to be a big challenge because the type of load is getting changed. One is the transition load is EV. We don't know how long this electrical vehicle load will persist because there is a parallel development of hydrogen. If this is really going to materialize down the lines 5-6 years, I don't think anybody will prefer an electrical vehicle which requires charging. So they will be more, will have a naturally more adoption to go and pick up some cylinder, maybe hydrogen cylinder or maybe something like similar solution because it has more flexibility. So we see it is only temporary transition. There are one more very important transition which is more relevant in the city like Delhi. Delhi has a very typical climate and very typical pollution problem. See, because of farm fire is one region and the source within the city is another problem. The only solution, we can't control the neighboring country or neighboring state because of political compulsion. But the actionable point is only controlling a pollution within the source of pollution within the city. One is electrical, One is vehicle, that we are already covered. The another important mission Government of India planning is a clean cooking, a green cooking. Already clean is already happened now. The green, they are going to convert almost all the kitchen into a electrical kitchen, because they want this source to be shifted somewhere else, maybe a generating station. Fortunately, we have a major thrust in renewable energy, so that's overall really very good concept. But for us is a worrying factor, over and above the opportunity of getting chance for serving more consumer or more load factor. Because in a Delhi, the biggest challenge for us is we don't have a space. Today in Delhi's peak demand is around 7,600 megawatt. As per the recent vision document from Government of India, by 2047, they are expecting India will be a developing country. By that time, Delhi will have a 30,000 megawatt peak demand. That means if we prefer 2.5 times is a natural factor, most advanced utility has with respect to capacity of network to the peak demand, we have to build capacity of almost 90,000 megawatt. So today approximately Delhi has around 30,000 megawatt distribution capacity. We have to make it 3 times more. Nobody wants any cable from their home, in front of their home. Nobody wants RMU, nobody wants transformer, and we don't know. I don't know, international communication say when we are going to have a transmission of power without a wire. So some people were telling me that there is a hope that a quantum computing can be a hope, because the power requirement of the US is so low, it can be. So with this, I think my time is over. Thank you to ISGF and to team for giving me a chance to share our view. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gopal sir. You really brought out technology is important, but along with that, the implementation, there has to be implementation plan too, and also understanding the challenges that you would face with the new technologies, and until and unless they are implemented in the right way with a good mechanism, those technologies would not be of any great, it probably brings more challenges than helping, right? Thank you very much, and with that, over to the audience for the question. May I request to just put on the every speaker, the panel who is sitting there remotely can see us. Okay, that's great, thank you. Only request probably what I would have is, since they would not be able to hear the question, you may have to come over here and speak, because the mic is not connected. Whoever has a question, please. I think you raised your hand. Please introduce yourself, and no, I think he has to come here. He cannot. Here, sir.
So, hi everyone, this is Devesh from GE. My question is to Gopal sir, that TPDDL is a counterpart of BSCS. They are operating in the northern part of Delhi and other regions. They had adopted the technologies like ADMS way back in 2015, and it is operational for quite some time. But at the very same time, BSCS is struggling to work with the classical SCADA system for more than a decade time. So what are the plan of BSCS and how they should work with DERC or the related body to get the fund approved for the upgradation of their systems?
So in Delhi, basically almost all 3 utilities, we began this ADMS adoption journey together around 2009. Before that, we also had a approval from regulatory body. We also adopted. Unfortunately, during that day, the biggest challenge was communication technology. Required bandwidth was not available. Even component level, the product availability was also challenged. So what we adopted was a pilot of retrofitting module. Unfortunately, that didn't work. There was different type of challenge also. Component theft was one very important. So battery was unfortunately, we don't know why most of the people involved were first victim was a battery. So that failed. Subsequently, we relied on traditional SCADA. The one important challenge was GIS availability. So GIS, unless we have a GIS, ADMS is of no use because it will provide a scattered a lot of information which can't be interpreted through a single screen of 15-inch monitor size. We need a strong GUI, where graphical interpretation through colors or maybe by some different means. For example, the biggest example which I always prefer to give is Delhi Metro is operating a driverless train. That confidence comes from their solution, OT solution. They have a very good sound, dependable solution, which has a very strong graphical representation. The person sitting in the conference, in their control room, they know which train is where, what is the gap between them, what is the status of sensor on the way. So that's a graphical, it's not a data analysis. The operator simply by a glance on any screen at a time immediately can make out where everything is running fine, or there is something outage, planned outage, or there is something problem. The ones, because there are so many different screens, he has to scan at every moment. That's a human limitation. It can't be done round the clock 24/7 perfect. So we need a very strong graphical. That interface was a challenge. That was 2-3 reason why we could not adopt. Subsequently, we approached to Delhi Regulatory Commission. Unfortunately, our DPR is still under review. So once it is available, we have already started at field and component level adoption. Likewise, we are procuring almost all RMU with FRTU. So our target is to have a quicker pace up on the sensor adoption size. And once the clearance is there, we will also have a ADMS integrated, broader distributed architecture with almost all the component in the same place, DOM, CV, likewise many other. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from audience? Maybe so that we don't have the gap between the questions and our panelists sitting remotely, they can know where the question is coming. Sir, you have any question? Please, sir. Next, anyone? Please raise your hand.
Yeah, my name is Murugesan, former Director General CPRI. This is only a statement, it's not a question. The thing is that there is, for smart energy, there is a comprehensive standards of about 250 standards are already available for each segment, whether it is home automation or AMI or substation automation or feeder automation or SCADA or storage. Segment-wise, the standards are already available in IEC. It is the roadmap standardization standard described segment-wise. But the thing is that in Indian context, when we want to do that, we should not deviate from the particular standard. So we need to adopt same standard as quickly as possible and make it available, because most of the utilities are not having access to standards. Especially IEC standard is out of reach. In fact, even BIS standard itself is not available, though it is available at a cheaper rate. It is not available with many of the utilities. They only copy and paste, all such things are happening. So it is my humble request that the standard organization in India like BIS should immediately adopt all the standards described as the standardization roadmap, that is smart grid front standardization roadmap, and make it available so that following is easier. That's all my request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And since I don't see any hands, yeah, please come in.
Can I respond to this question?
I'm sorry, Kishore ji, हाँ बोलिए ना.
Okay, can I respond to Mr. Murugeshan's statement?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Murugeshan sir,
So
Kishore, yeah.
Yeah, just to update, all BIS standards which have been developed in BIS are absolutely freely downloadable. Okay, and utilities know it. They don't download it, they don't use it, it's their problem. The blame is not on BIS. And most of the IEC standards are timely being adopted after reviewing in the respective mirror committees. And they are also, once they are adopted by BIS, they are available at a very nominal cost, less than 1,000 rupees each IEC standard is available. But now the real problem is, do the utilities really feel the need to adopt standards and use them in a comprehensive, structured manner? That is the real challenge that I have seen as a technology person. Our utilities are simply trying to build specs and create a arbitrary hodgepodge of specifications without really referencing structured standards in a structured manner. I think that is where our Indian ecosystem needs a proper maybe grooming on what are the standards relevant to their ecosystem, and then how to adopt them, integrate them into different architecture, different solutions, requirements of utilities. That's where we need to do some homework as an ecosystem, but it's not a problem of BIS, by the way.
Thank you, Kishorji. I think, yes, everyone knows that all the BIS standards are freely downloadable, except for the one which has been adopted by IEC, from IEC ISO. However, the point, I think, the 200 plus standards which Murugeshan ji talked about is adoption of most of the standards as quickly as possible. Right, sir? Thank you. And I think we'll discuss this deliberate once again, maybe when you are in physically here. Thank you. Over to you.
So my question to Gopal ji. So like as you said about digitalization, so as the other speakers also said about digitalization and United Nations goal towards SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. So the one more thing is about carbon neutrality and net zero. So is there any activity you planned regarding like to achieve the net zero in your medium voltage and high voltage substations? Because in medium voltage and high voltage we are using generally SF6 gas. So as we all know that the like global warming potential for the SF6 gas is like 22,800 times, or we can say almost 23,000 times of carbon dioxide. So what is your action plans to replace SF6 with some alternate gas?
So, as far as social, this part, very important part of sustainability is concerned, we have already adopted BRSR compliances. And the second part, what we are working upon is sourcing all the procurement. It's basically three-stage process we are going to adopt. First is the awareness among our the partners, basically as equipment supplier and service provider. Second will be a second stage where we will promote them by means of some incentive, and the third will be a mandatory stage. So that's roadmap we are preparing for adoption of ESG compliant requirement, essential requirement. As far as the very specific technological part you said, unfortunately, we have so many grid with GIS technology, and we adopted with a very big constraint of space availability. Now, so far, there are one or two very important development, where the solid insulation is the one where we are hopeful. So, with new procurement, we are going to adopt very soon. But so far, you have to understand one thing, that in regulatory framework, generally, from day of conceptualizing requirement of a grid at any place in the city to the realization, it took almost 2 to 3 years. Because once we take that project seriously, then we have to identify land acquisition, and then regulatory appraisal, it takes almost a year, and then again implementation. So altogether 2 to 3 years is a time. So maybe after 2 years, almost all our new adoption will be a compliant one. And the old one, we have already, we are in talk with the government of India as well as government of Delhi So we have submitted them detailed plan for conversion of almost all GIS asset into a compliant one. But we are not hopeful because it required almost 2,000 to 3,000 crore of investment. So let's see what's happened.
Like in European countries, what they are doing, like they start some acts, like some government. In European countries, like they have some rules and regulations that they can't take any SF6 GIS in their future projects. Like whatever GIS you have, you can keep with you. But in the future projects, like in the after 1 year or after 2 years or after 3 years, in next 2-3 years, whatever GIS you will take. So what they are doing, they are taking the new like alternate gas GISs. Like it is available with almost every manufacturer. It is not only like I am from Siemens, but it is not only available with Siemens, with GE, with Hitachi. Like everyone have with some alternate gas options. So is there any plan you have?
Definitely, we will consider all the available solution. It's not only solid insulation, because whatever experimented or already implemented solution working successfully, we don't have any objection. Provided it complies all the standards, like testing requirement, everything is complete. So it will be very easy for us to adopt it. Otherwise, it will be a very long cycle again because of time constraint. We may have to skip 1 or 2 grid adoption because testing compliance is very important. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Last question.
One more question you have?
Yeah.
To whom?
Yes, to Richard.
Okay.
Yeah. My question to you, that as the alternate gas switchgear, like to achieve the carbon neutrality, and as per the European Union's Act, so like they are restricting the use of SF6 on medium voltage and high voltage switchgears. So like different manufacturers are creating different alternate gas for the medium voltage and high voltage switchgears. So but still now there is no IEC standards is available regarding like how to standardize those alternate gas switchgears. There are SIGRE standards, like SIGRE vouchers are there, like SIGRE 802 is there for the different gas from different manufacturers. But is there any IEC standards is under progress or like anything is coming?
Well, I thank you very much because I'm going to use the question for a more general, to stage a more general issue, which is, this is the typical situation where I would say there is no technical or technology problem. And basically, there is more a strategic question, and also the posture of different manufacturers. They are all good. They are all very smart people. They are all people. They are fair, but they have invested. They have invested a lot because utilities and regulators have been asking the vendors to invest, to prepare the future. So they come up with new ideas, completely new ideas, and even I would not blame them to even try to find something so fantastic that even that is different from what whoever else would come up with. Okay, and then we end up with that kind of situation where actually I'm going to send you back the boomerang. Yeah. And the fact that Siemens, you're a very large and world corporation. So you have the capability to send out representatives to all those standardization committees with one view, one vision, and this will make it happen. Because the SDOs are not, actually the SDOs, they don't exist. They are virtual organizations to serve members. And your, yeah, and I don't want to single out your company because I don't want to promote one company on another one. But what I want to single out is your one company that has the resources to do something. Because this is a real issue we surfaced this morning and again a bit this afternoon, where well, we need resources and real people doing real work, not just subscribers. Okay, so don't be offended. I think you have, actually the fact that you're asking the question is you've been resolving 80% of the issue you're bringing up to the table. And for the sake of time, we can keep discussing that in the lobby, but I really appreciate, because at the beginning, I was inviting people to speak their mind. You did it, and you had the courage to do it, as other people here, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
May I continue?
Oh, okay.
Continue there, and please give your concluding remarks.
Okay, so concluding remark is quite difficult to come up with concluding remark with such kind of session in which, well, it was really a balancing act, you see, where, okay, we said this morning, let's look at existing things going on, and now in the afternoon, oh, okay, let's dream out. Let's a bit dream out. Let's see what's coming up at the horizon, and so of course we've heard many different things, quite puzzling, actually mind puzzling. Where first with the AI, William did a very good job in actually making clear what is going on, the kind of question the different committees are trying to address. Even though it's so new, most of the people in the room have not invested to the point that each one here could actually follow completely or participate even in your committees and discussion. But you see, for artificial intelligence, well, actually, I guess that we should not just, because we're not happy of what we succeed to do, think that, oh, okay, now there is artificial intelligence, it's going to make it happen. Of course, well, you know the joke, you see. What is the definition of artificial intelligence? And William, don't listen to this. Well, the simplest definition is that it is the contrary of natural stupidity. Well, it's half a joke, because William said something very important, that AI, a key question for AI and the society is that there is a safety issue, because the learning capability, that's the difference with advanced IT, the learning capability is bringing in predictive outcomes. And this is really the new thing, the key point, and just from a candid person, I'm not expert in AI, I'm very interested and intrigued, but I would have just a concern and question about, is there a possibility that we can trace what AI is proposing as a result? You see, even if you play around with ChatGPT, you see, you can ask something, and then, oh, okay, here is an answer. Okay, the first thing I would love, and is it intelligence? I'm not sure. It might still be AI, IT, which is, hey, with the answer, I would like to have a kind of report showing what piece of information has been found somewhere, and explain somehow what's the process that has been bringing just the answer. And this is, to me, this would be the very first step even to standardize, because this is, to me, what I think would convince decision makers to authorize having AI systems directly in the control centers. You see, not making decisions on behalf of people, but bringing in, you see, ideas or signaling things that the natural intelligence of the human operator can, hey, oh, there is something they didn't see, and they can see from where it comes from. Hey, you're right, let's do that. This is an enhancement, a fantastic enhancement of what we can do, and I'm sure this will come. And definitely, I really commend the incredible endeavor that William has been taking with this SC42. Now, of course, we had this ontology presentation and this work from ETSI, very, very difficult work that Mauro presented. And the issue with ontology, you see, again, coming from the utility side, you see, I keep asking people talking about ontology to say, okay, bring me a sample, just a sample or an example. I want to feel and touch an example. And maybe it's still a bit too early. I know it's a very, very, very difficult work. You need to be very conceptual to really be able to embrace this and come up with something. But I am still expecting, and this is where, of course, ETSI has published a SAREF for energy. But even though with SAREF looking at it, you see, it's whetting the appetite where we say, yeah, but okay, but could I have more meat on the bones? Or, okay, what are the next steps? So we see that really those are trends, and there is, again, like for AI, a lot to come, and there are a lot of expectations. Of course, then we came with Kishore in presenting a well-structured thinking and proposals to attempt to combine puzzle piece. And there are many puzzle pieces, and even in 3D, no, it's much more than 3D. There are much, because if it was just 3D, we could make a drawing. No, there are much more dimensions. And he presented in very limited amount of time something very difficult that is, it's moving ahead. It's really the system engineering approach applied applied to standard development, then that has been completed with Masaki-san presentation, where Masaki-san is, of course, with the roadmap of IEC going further to actually a development plan, which means that we organize and explain who's going to do what, when, because when you look at the IT systems of the SDOs, you can see only things that are already published or is decided, it's on the way, but there is nothing in between, and you have no idea of what is the ongoing thinking. Is there something that's going to happen that you cannot see in the management system, IT management system of the SDOs? And this is basically, in a nutshell, what Masaki-san is doing, but he also introduced a very interesting concept, ERAB. Well, we can say, hey, what's new? Because he's been talking about distributed generation. Okay, fine. Is it new? Not sure. He's been mentioning demand response and flexibility. Is it new? No, we're talking about this already for 10, 15, 20 years in some areas. And I've been talking about smart metering, but what's new is actually taking advantage of the three at the same time. And I have in mind what the utility stakeholder from the morning panel said. You know what? Hey, we have on the ground many devices coming from different origins and they are all compliant. They comply to some standards, but it's like a zoo, you see, and they have those animals in different cages. And how do you find the resources to face this? Okay, so ERAB is really a new concept to move forward one step, and of course I enjoyed very much the utilities statements and presentation, of course, because it's been I've been formatted this way, and of course they've been speaking their mind this morning, this afternoon, and what we should all keep is that there are expectations from the utility. There are expectations, And they can already, because sometimes people, they're not happy, they don't have what they think they should have, but they cannot talk about it. But there are utilities expectation. They can explain a lot of those. And of course, in the SDOs, this is once again something we mentioned this morning. An SDO is not a consortium, and an SDO is not an engineering society. This is very tricky. This is a balancing act, because if people who are coming to the table of an SDO doesn't have the feeling he's going to be able to have a social life with his peers, he might not come, he might not enjoy. Is he coming up? Okay. His employer might not also send that expert to the table. So, because the experts say, you know what, I go in those meetings and I can learn a lot of things I hear. I can spy on, or no, not spy, eavesdrop, you see, on understanding how, okay, fine. But the thing is that there are, to me, and I'm be blunt also, you've been, and I have to be courageous to say it, you say, I think there is a need to really balance in those SDOs the representation of utilities and the vendors. Okay? So I will stop here. I have many other things. I need to keep some for next year. Yeah. and we need to thank very much our moderator here that did I think a very good job.
Thank you, Richard. I think, yeah, what we'll have is we'll have a group photograph, and may also request Disha if you can take a screenshot, because our people who are there, the members who are there. Yeah, may I request all the panelists who are online to come on their, everyone is on their camera is on. So you can see, I can see there in the yeah. No, but I think you can just go.
Yeah, so on that laptop, yeah, just do the. You can just. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you once again, William, Moro, Kishore, and Masaki-san. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Great day.
Thank you for the event.
It's very late for
Yeah, it's very
Thank
late.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Next time I will join in person.
Please, Masaki-san, we would love to.
Yeah, next time I will join in person. I promise it.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much.
Thank you.